Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
Today at 1, we're live in Ukraine as Russia invades in a major military assault by land, sea and air.
It's now more than a month since the US Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, visited Taiwan. China's ambassador to Australia also issued a blunt warning a few days ago that those who push for Taiwanese independence will be punished.
We're waiting for a peaceful reunification, but we cannot rule out other options.
You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed, it'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore.
This is why we fight. Democracy is at war. Across the world, we see the forces rallied against it. From the authoritarian regimes of Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea to techno-aristocrats, religious fundamentalists, and populist demagogues. In the battlefields of Ukraine to the Straits of Taiwan and the halls of power in the United States, democratic, free values are under determined assault. But there are those who resist. They are activists, journalists, academics, soldiers, religious leaders, and politicians. In this series, we will meet those who claim to be fighting for a free world. We will find out who they are, how they're involved in the struggle, what democracy means to them, and why it's worth fighting for. In this episode, we turn to Serbia, a nation with a complex history. Once part of Yugoslavia, Serbia was one of many nations riven by war and ethnic strife in Yugoslavia's bloody breakup. During this war, Serbian troops carried out the worst European genocide since World War II. The war ended with a full NATO intervention and a country-wide bombing campaign. When the guns fell silent, Serbia had a chance to rebuild as a free nation. Its then leader, Slobodan Milosevic, and others were tried for crimes against humanity in The Hague. Tragically, this chance has been lost. President Aleksandar Vucic has set himself up over his 13 years in power as a strongman, to whom all government officials pay homage. Following the tragic deaths last year of 16 people in a collapse at a railway station in the city of Novi Sad, protests against Vucic and his corruption have spread across the country. In this episode of Why We Fight, we speak to one such protester, Tamara. She has asked that we forego her full name. Tamara, welcome to Why We Fight.
Thank you for inviting me, and I'm honored.
It's excellent. It's very important that the people who are fighting for democracy and defending democracy are able to speak and feel able to speak. So I'm very glad that you've been able to come on. Now we're going to talk about the student protests that are ongoing in Serbia. Now I understand these began in November last year following a disaster at the Novi Sad railway station, which has so far killed 16 young people.
Yep.
Accidents can happen. Why has this created such a response?
Right. So first of all, I don't think it's 16 young people. There have been some young, some older people. So it's just been a random sample of people who happened to be there when the canopy fell. But yeah, it's just 16 people that so far have died. There's still one person in the hospital recovering. And we really do not believe, and when I say we, I mean we in Serbia who are protesting against the current government, we do not believe this was an accident. There are good reasons for doubting the whole process of renovation of the train station. So if I can just try to quickly go over everything that predated the collapse of the canopy. This train station has been reconstructed very recently as a part of a larger effort to modernize Serbian railways. And they have been building the railway from Belgrade to, the plan is to connect Belgrade and Budapest in Hungary. And on our side, in Serbia's side, they have been connecting Belgrade to Subotica, which is the most northern city, and Novi Sad is in the middle of the two, right? the effort to reconstruct everything has been going on for a while. I think 4 or 5 years back. The part of the railway between Novi Sad and Belgrade was closed for a few years, and then they made a new railway. They opened the newly renovated station, the station in the Novi Sad. That was 2022. And there was a big ceremony, and the president was there, and Viktor Orban was there from Hungary side, and the big media thing, and a lot of people to support the president and all that. So this was in 2022. Few months after that, they closed the newly renovated station in order to reconstruct it again for some reason. And that has been going on for 2 years. And it was newly opened on July 2024. There was the minister of, I think, civil engineering, or I don't know what his official position is, but the minister who was in charge of the department of all the government branch that looked over the reconstruction. So the minister Goran Vesic, who is currently being processed for the fall of the canopy. So he was there, and some other ministers as well, and some people from the ruling party, who opened the train station ceremonially again. So 2 years after it was already reconstructed and opened, and said publicly in front of all the cameras that this is the greatest train station ever built, that this is that everybody is going to be so envious of us for how great the station is, and it's the greatest and safest place the greatest and safest station in Europe. And so they that's what they said, and not 4 months after that, the canopy collapsed and people died. So I think immediate reaction of all of us was, first of all, I mean, the great sense of loss, and you know, just these random people. These aren't really random people in our eyes. This could have been any of us. We all know someone who was there either that day or day before. I was there 2 weeks prior to that. We were all there. It's a train station. Everybody takes the train, right? So this was, we all felt like it could have happened to us. So it hit very personally what happened. But then there was this just anger because the same day the president came on television and told everyone that every part of the train station was renovated but the canopy. So in his words, they renovated everything, but they didn't renovate the canopy. And this was an additional insult to injury because we saw it with our own eyes over the months that they've been renovating it. I personally saw it. Saw people walking on that canopy, saw the construction crew, the materials being placed there. We saw the additional things that had been put on the canopy. We saw with our own 2 eyes that it was renovated. And the same day president claimed it wasn't. And people were mad because it was such an obvious lie. So that's why people are demanding accountability, demanding that they're blaming the government, they're blaming corruption. And students have since then, it was a long process that we can get into, but there are 4 demands and new additional demands that have been brought up since, but original 4 demands that are just demanding basic accountability. So publishing of all of the documentation regarding the reconstruction, and some other demands that are more to do with the actions that government has taken since the protests started. But the main demand asks for publishing of the documentation so that we all can see what happened there and who is to blame.
Corruption is clearly a central part of the motivation for ongoing protests. Serbia ranks 35 from a scale of 100, 100 being very clean, no corruption, 0 being highly corrupt, on Transparency International's 2024 Corruption Perceptions Index. I want to ask, how does corruption manifest itself in Serbian daily life?
So there are multiple ways. The institutions really don't work. and when I say institutions like government, public sector institutions like hospitals, like anything to do with government, with, I don't know, post offices and stuff like that, things are just not moving as fast as they should, and things sometimes are not moving at all. And the thing is, in order for someone to get a job in the public sector, they need to be not that they don't need to be, but they're usually pressured to join the ruling party, the Serbian Progressive Party, which is party of the president. The party is called SNS in Serbia, so we refer to it as SNS. So they are kind of pushed to join the SNS, and they are employed with contracts that are not like long-term permanent contracts. They're like sort of not really part-time contracts, but they're limited. And when the contract expires, they just renew the contract. And so all these people, there's like hundreds of thousands of people working in the public sector. They are really pressured to do whatever the government asks them. For example, there was a big meeting yesterday that the president called, the president organized, where all these people, where not all of them, but a lot of people from the public sector were pressured to come and show their support for the president. Otherwise, they might be at risk of losing their job. And these conditions that people work in, the way the whole country is organized at the moment are very subpar and very, they're not really paid enough to live a decent life. And so everything is kind of, I don't know, it's slow. I don't know how to describe it. It's very difficult to describe because it's we're kind of used to it. It's kind of normal. And I'm trying to find the words to describe it. But yeah, so on the one hand, you have these stalled institutions that don't work, where people who are very unsatisfied and a lot of times blackmailed into doing things that are expected of them by the ruling party. You have the media that is completely occupied by the ruling party. So all of the major national frequency networks, TV networks, a lot of people here still depend on TV, especially older people, to get their information. A lot of TV stations with national frequency are completely under the grasp of the ruling party, and they are just propaganda machines that very fiercely attack anyone who says anything against the ruling party. And it's hard to really describe some of these channels that are very popular. It's hard to describe how disturbing the content that they are spreading is. The language that they use, the profanity, the harsh nature of their accusations against people who are just fighting for freedom. So there's been this media blackout in our country for a while now. There are some independent journalists and independent TV stations that still exist, but that has also been brought into question lately. We are scared that we're going to lose them as well. We're basically relying on social media to spread information. And yeah, so yeah, the institutions, they're stalled. I mean, I'm guessing in many countries you have, poor conditions in hospitals and whatnot. But, here you can really, I know for many cases where, for example, if you have someone who is very sick and needs an operation, you need to give the doctor an envelope with cash so that they would accept to perform the surgery and stuff like that. It's just, and it's normal. It's difficult to describe that this is what we've learned to recognize as normal, and this is just what you have to do. And it shouldn't be. And that's why we finally kind of snapped out of accepting this as a new normal. And we're fighting to redefine what normal means.
So in the background of this world, this life of constant corruption, of having to pay a bribe to see the doctor, was Novi Sad a flashpoint? And then how did the protests begin to grow?
So the thing is, the canopy accident, the canopy incident, let's call it that, it was kind of a catalyst to a process that was happening over the years, where there was many other political scandals and deaths and strange circumstances that many politicians were involved in over the years, very, very famous ones. And we protested over years. We tried, we walked the streets, we tried peacefully. It always kind of died down. What was different this time is that I think we were angry enough on the one hand, because as I explained, it was so deeply personal to all of us what happened, that we were willing to push on, even beyond like the first feelings of like, oh, how are we gonna win? What are we doing here? We're fighting something that we cannot comprehend. But also the fact that students organized, and that they the major factor of all of this, so the reason that all of this is happening is that students organized. So very quickly, after the fall of the canopy, the opposition parties, which they do exist, but they're very people don't trust them for many reasons, in which I don't want to get into right now, but they kind of started organizing these protests against the ruling party for the fall of the canopy, blaming them. And this has been going on for a few weeks. At some point, they staged these protests called 14 for 14. At the time, only 14 people died when the canopy fell. And the action was to every day, or in the beginning it was every Friday, because the accident happened on the Friday. Every Friday, people should get out on the street at 11:52 a.m. That was when the canopy fell. And for 14 minutes, just stand wherever they are, stand in silence for 14 minutes. And so this was for 14 minutes for 14 victims, right? So this was just peaceful protest for 14 minutes at a time. Which at the beginning was every week, then people started doing it more and more. And as these things happened, people kept appearing on these peaceful protests, attacking other people who were protesting, right? And we had reasons to believe that these were sent by the ruling party. One of the most obvious evidence in this case was when there was a leaked voice note from one of the party members who orchestrated some people to go and attack people on the street. So there was actual leaked voicemail. But even before that, I think the incident that kind of snowballed into everything right now was when people attacked students from one of the Belgrade universities who were peacefully paying their respects to the victims. And students after that, because they were outraged by the fact that they were attacked for holding a peaceful moment of silence, or 40 minutes of silence, they decided to organize and block their university. So this is one of the well-established forms of protests here in Serbia. This was what was done in the 90s. This is how Milosevic fell after the 90s war. So people were dissatisfied with him, and after students organized, everything kind of snowballed, and he was overthrown. So students, because universities in Serbia have this autonomy from the state, and state cannot just send police in there to arrest people without actually police being invited by heads of the universities. Students have this legitimate form of protest by blocking the universities. Literally, they live there. they go there, live there. They block them, and they don't allow the anything like lectures to happen or exams or anything. So they're just blocking universities and preventing their normal processes from functioning. And so this just started with one university, but very quickly, not just one university, just one faculty of the Belgrade University, but very quickly all of the universities announced their blockade. And that spread to some high schools as well. And it's important to note that there were, so teachers were actually protesting before the canopy fell. They're dissatisfied with their salaries and their position in our society. They're very, lately they've been very degraded. The position of teacher has been very degraded. And we had a school shooting 2 years ago that nobody really recovered from mentally. And since then, some reforms were talked about, but nothing really changed. So teachers joined and agricultural workers joined. They've also been protesting for a while. Lawyers joined, the students. And so many aspects of the society are very dissatisfied with their position. But the students were the driving forces of all this, because once they dropped everything and started the blockades, things changed because they had this, they had developed this machinery of, let's call it contra propaganda to what the government has been putting out. We had actual ways of getting to the information that is being put out there by somebody who isn't the president, but also isn't in politics and doesn't have a leader. They organize themselves in a way that they don't have a leader. They go through these plenary sessions where they switch who's the moderator every week. And everything is decided through direct democracy. And so they don't have a leader. They are not political. They do not demand anything in any like political sense other than responsibility and like the demands that they have for the fall of the canopy. And they have two more demands for when the protest started. The government arrested some of the protesters that were peacefully protesting, and they also sent, as I already said, there were people being sent by the ruling party to attack them on the street, and they were not punished for that, even though they were recorded and it was noted. So those demands require, the demands want from the government to sanction people who attacked people on the street during the peaceful protests, and to let go of the people who were arrested who did nothing wrong. And the final demand, there was a fourth demand that required the increase of the budget for funding for the universities. This was just something that universities fought for because, the universities should have higher status in the society, and they wanted to make it easier for people to get educated, to be able to think with their own head, I guess. So those were the four demands, and the protests grew because students kept getting better and better at organizing and more clever and organizing bigger and more significant events and protests. And that's kind of how it all happened.
In response, the government has, as you said, instituted these sort of vicious crackdowns. And the prime minister's resigned. A new prime minister being appointed, Dr. Jura Makut. Will this appointment make any difference?
So first of all, it's important to note that the prime minister hasn't resigned for some moral reason of like he felt guilty for the canopy collapse. He resigned after because a prime minister is currently the head of SNS. President Vucic was the head of SNS, the ruling party, but a few years ago he decided to name the ex-prime minister Vucevic as the head of SNS. And the night before the prime minister resigned, what happened was students were in the middle of the night uh, sticking like little stickers all over the town, calling people for the next protest. Like nothing major. They were like putting stickers on garbage cans so people could see them. And a bunch of thugs came out of the SNS place, their building, and they beat one girl with a baseball bat and broke her jaw. And this was documented that it was the ruling party thugs who did this. So the prime minister resigned as the response to this, and not as a response to the canopy fire. I don't think he would have resigned if this didn't happen. And for your question about the new prime minister, I honestly have no idea. We don't know who this man is. This Juro Matsut. He is some doctor, endocrinologist. I have no idea how he is competent to be a prime minister. I don't know why he was chosen. Literally the other day, I was talking to my friend, and I was like, "What do you think of this Juro Matsut guy?" He was like, "Who?" Like, this was a weird move. I mean, that is probably he probably has his reasons. I don't think it will change anything because this is still what you have to understand is that the ruling party is ingrained in every part of our society. So they control all of the hospitals, all of the public sector things. Everything is under control of the ruling party. So naming some no-name doctor as a prime minister is just a political stunt. That I don't know what the goal of the stunt is. That remains to be seen. But I don't think it's going to change the way our society is organized. And people still don't care about any prime minister or anyone that isn't Vucic. Vucic has such a strong cult of personality that he built over the years. His face is everywhere. His name is everywhere. There's only one thing that his supporters are sure of, and that is that they support him, whatever he does. So I don't think the new prime minister will change anything.
How is it that, I mean, you've described how the SNS seems to have such a stranglehold on Serbian civil society. Vucic has been in power for 13 years, as I understand it. How has that come to pass? And what does it look like when that happened?
Well, okay. He has started his political career in the 90s during the Balkan Wars, and he was a minister of information for under Milosevic regime. So very early on, he learned how important it is to have a full grasp on the media. So it's very well-known fact that during the 90s here, the entire Balkan region was very unstable, and media was very selective in what they reported and how they reported it. And so a lot of it was Vucic's doing. So he started even during the 90s, but after the fall of Milosevic, he took a backseat because there was this whole attempt to redesign democracy in Serbia, to redesign the entire country, because it was sort of a socialist, communist. It had a lot of socialist, communist leftovers from Yugoslavia times. And that didn't really last that long because of the assassination of Prime Minister Zoran Đinđić at 2003, I believe. And after that, for a while, it was very unstable. I mean, I was just a child, so I really cannot speak to what really happened, and I don't remember. But it was just the years that followed were kind of unstable. We were still recovering from the war, from the NATO bombing, from just the instability of it all. And people were dissatisfied with the way the Democratic Party that was in charge of Serbia at the time, and the way they handled things. There was corruption back then, but I cannot speak to the extent of it. I don't really recall. In 2008, Kosovo declared independence, and it was also another blow. Kosovo has very deep. Serbian people have very deep connection with Kosovo. It goes centuries back, and it's a whole thing. We're not going to go into that, but it's important to mention because Vucic, who was before part of the Radical Party and really right-wing and very extremist and whatnot, he and some other people from the party, they made SNS, Serbian Progressive Party, and they kind of rebranded themselves, and they were more oriented to the West. So people were dissatisfied with the previous regime. No, it wasn't a regime. It was just previous administration, let's call it. And they, I don't know how it happened that we voted SNS. I believe I remember we voted for the president, Tomislav Nikolic, at the time. He founded SNS with Vucic, and I believe he lost, and then he underwent a hunger strike, and then he was named president. That's all I remember. And then slowly but surely, I believe the taking over of all of the institutions happened. It didn't happen overnight. It just you don't really notice it. I honestly I had no idea until fairly recently, like I don't know how many years ago, that this was happening, because you know, every day, if you're not in it, if you're not working in public institutions, if you're, I don't know, I work in private sector, so you just wake up, you go to work, at the time I was studying at the university. Yeah, there are talks of scandals and this and that, but you know, you just live your life and move on. But it became more and more obvious as television stations degraded, as media kind of degraded into what it is today. A lot of reality shows, a lot of very cheap content that is not good, not really cultural in any way. And as all of this, as institutions became harder and harder to not harder, as it became more difficult to work within the institutions of our country. And I believe it just happened by, you know, putting party loyalists slowly as heads of departments and in public institutions, as changing the laws so little by little to make them work in favor of the ruling party. And yeah, it doesn't really happen overnight. As I said, I wasn't aware of what was happening. A lot of older people were aware because they lived kind of through the similar thing before. But you know, it's not, you know, little things happen. You're like, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. And then scandal after scandal after scandal, and big projects like Belgrade waterfront at Belgrade. And now I think one of the reasons that people became very angry with the SNS was the Rio Tinto affair. It's not an affair. It's just a Rio Tinto project that is planned to happen in around Jadar River. I don't know if have you heard of it? Have you heard of this whole?
No, you can't let me know about it.
Yeah, it was the biggest issue for Serbians before the canopy fell, and it still is. So the Australian company Rio Tinto signed some sort of agreement with the government that they will get to dig lithium from some parts of Serbia around the other river and around. And this, I can't recall when it started. I almost remember it not being really that tightly connected to Europe, but lately it's been Vucic has been negotiating with some German representatives, even French. I think with Macron there was also some talk of that. So I think lithium, mining lithium in Serbia has become a strategic opportunity for European Union, and apparently it's very important to them. And so they are trying to get this deal to pass and to start digging. People are resisting because the area where they want to do this is where agricultural land is. There's a lot of underground waters that people are using to drink, and it is a lot of environmental concerns, and a lot of experts are saying that this is not something that can be done in a way that will not permanently damage the environment. And a lot of people will have to be displaced. A lot of people have already been displaced. And it is just, it's something I've honestly, before these protests, I'd never seen Serbian people rally around something as much as they have been rallied around stopping Rio Tinto from exploiting lithium. So this was one of the things that people already didn't like, and then the canopy happened, and now again the things are starting to crack. The grasp on everything is starting to fall apart a bit because people are finally seeing through it all.
But I want to talk about you, and I want to talk about your involvement in this movement, in this struggle, and your concept of democracy. How are you involved?
I'm not really. Something is the protests don't really have like a leader, so you can't really be part of the organization. You definitely cannot join the students. Students are doing their own thing, so you cannot just join them. So there's not really a way to be a part of some sort of organization that leads these protests because they're so decentralized. For me, I follow everything that's happening mostly on Instagram. That's where students are posting the events. I try to go out on the protests whenever I can. So students have, as I already mentioned, they have organized themselves through this direct democracy approach and plenary sessions, and they started requesting from people to do the same, to join into these national, local assemblies for every municipality they live in. And that so students through their social media, through their communication channels, said that people should join in like the students joined and decide things through direct democracy, and try to be connected in that way and try to take control over their own local municipalities and to try to fight the system from the local environment. Because when you look into it, like the local municipalities and then just generally anything small scale has lost all meaning under the SNS rule. Every decision, everything that happens when one man decides that it will happen. If there's a road that needs to be patched, it's going to be patched before the election, so the locals know, oh look, the Vucic repaired a road, we're going to vote for him, right? So the idea is to kind of organize locally and try to bring back the meaning to the local municipalities and to just feel like we matter and we can all decide how our country, what our country will look like. So on my part, I'm trying to I've joined the local movement to work from our local municipality. And we're holding these assemblies and deciding on local issues and on ways we are going to. This isn't like something we're taking over the country or anything, right? We're just deciding on the local issues that matter to us, and we are deciding on how we are going to promote and fight for our local municipality. So I'm going through there. I've been donating money and resources to the students whenever I could. A lot of the support really hangs on donating and supporting the students in this movement because they're kind of informal leaders of it all. but all of us, we can organize through either unions if they exist, or some work groups if they exist, or local municipalities if they exist. That is kind of the latest. That's the latest development. So that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Why have you started getting involved yourself?
Well, for me, it was that moment when the president said we didn't reconstruct the canopy. I think something just, I don't know how to describe it. I've never felt so much anger and hopelessness, and I don't know, I just felt, since then I felt like I have to do something. This feeling, you feel like you're being degraded, like you're being, like this man is looking into your eyes and lying. Like I saw it with my own two eyes, that the canopy was renovated. We all saw it. And just this feeling of like humiliation, of like, I'm not gonna allow this man to lie to me like that, to lie to all of us, to get away with all things that he got away with. And I don't want to live in a society that looks like that. I really don't. So from that moment, and not just that moment, like there was just like a little trigger, but they, all of them from the ruling party, they've been saying some pretty nasty things since then. And every time my motivation falls, like the dwindles, they come out and say another stupid thing that gets me to come back to action and be like, okay, let's do something. I cannot let them get away with this. They're really digging their own grave with what they're doing. They're just pissing people off more and more.
You say you've been out to protest yourself. Protests are pretty frenetic environments. Given the brutality that the SNS has shown, breaking that young woman's jaw with a baseball bat, do you ever get afraid during a protest?
No, not really. The thing is, students have been pretty good at organizing these events, and so they really, it's astonishing how well they organized. So they have these, I don't know what to call them, like watchers, like people who make sure they handle everything, who are they are assigned like the duties for security, and to make sure that when protests are happening, they're telling people what to do or where to go. And if some incidents happen, they are there to handle it. So they had work groups where they train for that sort of thing. And I so far haven't been to a really violent protests. And when the violence happens, it is so blatantly obvious that it isn't coming from anyone from our side, let's say it that way. I was there, so on 5th of November, there was a large protest. This was before students organized, so this was protests that opposition parties organized in Novi Sad center, where, I don't know, tens of thousands of people came. And so at some point, people started smashing the, it's the town hall in the center of Novi Sad. So some people in black hoodies with covered faces just strolled in and started destroying the town hall. And we all already know this classic SNS stunt where you send in some thugs to make ruckus, and then, tomorrow on media, look at what protesters are doing. They're destroying everything. Oh my God, be afraid of them. This has been done before. And, it's so blatantly obvious. And everybody just steps back. We all know what's happening. So all people, when some sort of ruckus happens, we all just step back and we just yell, boo, And it's obvious that it's not coming from us. So we're kind of prepared for that. But only thing I feel when going out in these protests is optimism and sense of joy and pride and this fear, this weird patriotism that I didn't know I could feel. I never really cared for, like, I'm not gonna say I never really cared for my country, but I wasn't patriotic. I wasn't like, yeah, Serbia is the best. I was just like, yeah, I live here. It's fine. I was never really proud of my country because of the way things have been handled. And now, you go out and you see all these people full of joy, full of spite in their eyes, and you feel like you're not alone. Like oh my God, we look at how many of us are out there. We feel like for years we felt like we are the minority, like we are surrounded by these puppets of the regime who are somehow the majority, and they control everything, and then we can't do anything about it. But now we go out on the streets, and you can just see with your own eyes, there's so many more of us than there is of them. So I don't feel afraid. Every time I go out, I feel stronger and stronger and better, and like I feel like I can fight.
There are allegations that sonic weapons of some sort were deployed against protesters. There's a particular video from, I believe it's the 15th of March, a particularly large protest in Belgrade. Have you had any experience of that, or do you know anybody who has?
Not personally. Well, my friend was there, but he wasn't. First of all, pretty much everyone I know was there in Belgrade that day, so we all went there. And important thing about the big protest on 15th of March. So just a quick recap of the event. So students actually, preceding this event, they organized protests in all of the major cities around the country. And they did this by literally walking from town to town. So they walked on foot for hundreds of kilometers to get from one city to another, and to quote unquote liberate that city, to show the people that what they've been seeing on TV isn't true. And what they've been seeing on TV is that these are some sort of thugs and terrorists that want to kill them or something. But then they come and they spread joy and happiness, and they kind of manage to show the entire country that this is a legit movement of people who just want to live a better life. And so after all of that, they called everybody to come to Belgrade on the 15th. And what happened was somebody got scared and called off all of public transports available in the country that day. So all of the trains in the entire country were called off. Nobody could take a train to Belgrade. And there was an alleged bomb threat, but nobody's buying this, right? This was the day before the protests. I don't know if you ever heard, like, entire country shutting down trains, all of the trains, because of an alleged bomb threat. I don't think this ever happened anywhere. So all of the trains were called off. All of the buses, some of the buses, I think, managed to pull it off. But literally, I think the bus drivers, the companies that employ these people, they said, no, you're not driving that day. You're not allowed. Just goes to show the grasp of the regime. So they call off all of the public transport. And yet, hundreds of thousands of people came to Belgrade anyway. We all organized within minutes. When it was published that the trains were down, people organized like spreadsheets online to apply for rides. Everybody who was going to Belgrade and had some free room in their cars, like to drive students, and taxi drivers were driving people free, and people organized. I know it's not part of the question, but I feel like it's important to mention because I don't see this being reported. People are showing the images and the sound weapon and whatnot, but hundreds of thousands of us came to Belgrade in spite of somebody doing everything to stop us, just to show that we can. I was there up until, I think, 5 or 6 p.m. this is where we decided to go home because it was just impossible to go anywhere. There was just so many people. We were so tired. We had to walk on foot a lot because it's a lot of ground to cover, but it was just, we were too tired to move on. So I didn't stay there for the sound cannon thing, alleged sound cannon, sonic weapon. But yeah, the images that we saw later, there is no doubt in my mind that something was used. And there is no doubt in my mind that the government is behind it, because the next day, the president and the Minister of Internal Affairs, they came out and said, no, the weapon was not used, it does not exist, and we're going to arrest anyone who claims there's such a thing. And then there were reports of Serbian military or Serbian Ministry of Internal Affairs, I'm not sure which one, but some Serbian, some part of Serbia's defense, buying some LRADs, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And the Minister of Internal Affairs, he was like, oh, no, look, we bought them, but we never used them. They're in boxes in the basement. We never unpacked them. So next day, there were photos of the people took on the day, on the 15th, of these LRADs mounted on vehicles behind the main building, the National Assembly building in Belgrade, where we were in the center of the protests. And so they were like, we can see them like, okay, here are the LRADs. These are the LRADs, right? And so this time, again, the same guy, Minister of Internal Affairs, he comes out and says, okay, fine, sure, we unpacked them, but we never used them, right? So you see how annoyingly frustrating this is, to just listen to these people lie to you. Like, they lied and they never apologized. So they lied, we don't even have them. Then we have them, but we didn't use them. Oh no, we unpacked them, but we didn't use them. And again, their approach of saying, no, you see, this is a lie, this didn't happen. And if anyone says it happened, he's going to jail. I mean, there is really no doubt in my mind that they had something to do with it. So
It was the use of lies and the abandonment of the truth is very similar to what you see from other non-democratic figures such as Sergei Lavrov, Vladimir Putin, when they talk about atrocities carried out in Ukraine.
yeah, absolutely. No, and you have to understand, like, it is very bizarre to have your sanity questioned like that every day. Like, you never get fully used to it, to the lies, right? I don't know, is it something in our brain, but we're not wired to handle lies. We are not. I feel every time like they're lying, something in my brain breaks. Like, I know you're lying to me, and yet you're standing there so confidently and saying things that I know are not true. And it's so exhausting to live with that every day from people who are supposed to lead your country, from people who are supposed to make you feel like, like you're safe, like we got this, everything's covered, we're growing the economy, we're leading the country into a better future. And yet they make you feel like you're going insane every day. It's very exhausting.
Given that you've been lied to so much, what is it now that you could want from President Aleksandar Vucic?
Honestly, just, no, I don't know, nothing. I would just want him to go away and never have to look at him again. I don't think there's anything he can do right now. I mean, we can hypothetically say, yeah, he can, admit that they lied and stole money and caused the railway station to collapse. He can say those things, but I don't think he ever will, first of all. And I honestly, I don't know. There's nothing he can really do that's realistic that I could ask of him. I just don't want to look at him anymore, ever. I want him to go away and to not think of him ever again.
You'd like him to resign?
Yeah.
After, hypothetically, his resignation, what does a future Serbia look like for you?
Well, hopefully, brighter, better, more democratic. We've been convincing ourselves that this country, that Serbian people are a lost cause, that, we deserve what we got, that people, there's just this defeatism, and you see every time there's an election and majority, quote unquote, majority votes for Vucic on elections that are rigged, but let's not get into that. And you see you see people everywhere that you feel like are very, they're not good people, uneducated people making decisions for that they shouldn't be making for the rest of us. You just feel defeated, and you feel like, things are never going to get better. We're stuck in this, and there's no hope for us. But then the students happened, and with their energy and their kindness and their whole approach of just spreading joy and happiness and showing everyone that we do it, that the rest of us that really believe in justice, in better future, in democracy, that we do exist. That it isn't true that like most of Serbians are uneducated and I don't know, like wrong and whatever. Like most of us are normal people who want to build a better future. We just didn't know we existed, and now we have this new image of Serbia where, people are hugging each other on the streets, and we're all donating money for causes and helping each other, cooking lunches, driving people to protests, and just this solidarity and love and hope that is in the air these days. That is what I want Serbia to remain. I don't want us to go back to that dark place where we feel like we can't trust anyone and everybody's against us and whatnot. I feel like I want Serbia to be, I want it to stay like this. And I want our leaders, whoever they may be, to keep up with this movement and this approach to society. I want good people to get what they deserve, and not, criminals and lowlifes who knew what butts to kiss. Let's say it like that. So yeah, that's what I want. I want to live. I don't want to think about all of these things. I just want it to be normal to have a functioning society. So that's the Serbia I want to see. I want decent people to lead the country and to stop with the crime and with the corruption.
What does democracy, as an idea, as a concept, what does it mean to you?
Well, it's really hard to say. It's sort of a foreign thing for I'm not saying it's for, like, we have like this pseudo democracy, like elections and whatnot, but like not in a real sense of it. And I think it's very hard to define democracy today. Like, I would say it's will of the people, right? Will of the, at least the majority decides something. But today, it's very hard to actually get the legitimate to somehow extract the legitimate will of the people from the people, because of the so much propaganda, because of the way social media influences people's opinions. A lot of people fall under influence of not even politicians, just random YouTubers, random influencers, random other people on the internet, conspiracy theorists, whatnot, and then you get this tainted image of what people actually want, when people have been tricked to want things that they don't want because some algorithm or some propaganda, government propaganda or something else told them to. So it's very hard to define democracy in that sense. I would love it to be, a system where will of the people is what's making the decisions. But I've more and more been feeling like it's hard to define democracy in today's world, in today's conditions. I would say for now, for what we have now, I would accept just opportunity for that society where everybody has an opportunity to make change, to affect something, to this, that where system is organized in such a way where everybody knows where to go and who to talk to if there's a problem. A system where nobody's forced to say things or support people if they don't want. A system where media serves the people. A system where politicians serve the people. So it's literally like the root of the word democracy, right? People ruling, like from Greek. It's people making decisions for their own lives.
Where do you think Serbia's, your new Serbia, the Serbia you envision in the future, what's its place in the world?
That's a very difficult question. You mean like politically, like?
What kind of country do you want Serbia to be in terms of the geopolitical landscape? Do you envision a future within the European Union? And being in the European Union would mean you're in an organization with NATO members and with in the Western geopolitical architecture.
Yeah, I guess. So do you mean like do you mean would I see Serbia more leaning to the West or to Russia or to China, right? So the way things are now, we're kind of neutral, and I actually don't mind that we are neutral. I think that's a very good thing that we are able to stay neutral, because we are literally in between all of these forces, right? We are kind of on the western, on the eastern part of Europe, so we're kind of in between all of these forces. And it is, I think it's, I hate that we live in a world when you have to pick sides, right? Up until recently, if you asked me like whether I wanted to join Serbia to join the European Union, I would have said, yeah, of course. That's what we all wanted since I was little. This was talk of European Union and progress and democracy and everything. But the way Europe handled all of this, the way they're staying silent on what's happening, the way they're supporting Vucic, regardless of what he's been doing here, the way they are ready to destroy our land for lithium, the way they, I don't know, I there's a level of hypocrisy there that doesn't sit well with me, and I've been questioning, whether or not I would support Serbia and European Union. I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm not like totally turned off. by everything, but I've been questioning it. I honestly, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Russia and Russian politics. I'm not a big fan of what China's been doing. But lately it's interesting. So lately, when you say the West, I think like there's European Union and then there's America, and they have kind of been split. Up until recently, it was like one blob. Like the European Union was kind of together with America in the whole, at least from our perspective. But now with Trump, America's kind of been doing their own thing. So now you have a question of America as well. So I don't know. I like that we're independent. I would love if we were to remain sort of independent from everyone. But we do. I would love to be able to travel without a passport. I would love to be able to stay in European Union for more than 3 months. I would love to, I would love to have some of the perks of living in European Union. There's, I don't know, it's the whole approach to Vucic during this all has left a very bitter taste. So I don't know. If I had to choose, I would still choose European Union, but I've been hesitant lately.
What would you like to see from the European Union? What would you like to see them change?
I mean, at least some sort of a, stricter reaction towards what Vucic has been doing. And you probably saw like Vucic visited France and Macron, and they've been hugging and smiling, and it's very. I mean, I know they have to do it. I know it's all politics, and you have to keep appearances, but nobody has said anything. Like nobody from the European higher ups, like the Ursula von der Leyen or Marta Kos, who has been she's I think one of the people who is in charge of European integrations for Serbia. Like we have not made one like millimeter of an advance towards European Union. We have not changed anything in years. In years, we haven't changed anything. Like we haven't. There's less and less freedom in the press. There's, worse democracy standards, more corrupt elections every time. And she's just said, I had a very productive conversation with Vucic today, and we talked about things that. No, you people need to get your shit together and just do something, say something. I feel like they haven't because of the whole lithium thing. I think they have to keep appearances, and maybe they're afraid that they shun us, that Vucic will turn to China and Russia. I don't know, but I think it's very, very hypocritical to support Vucic when they've been so. They have judged Putin so easily. Like they didn't blink twice. They were just like, oh yeah, no, we're cutting Russia off. No, this isn't. I mean, okay, we didn't start a war. Serbia didn't start a war now, like Putin did. But again, this is a very blatant display of anti-democratic behavior that they haven't addressed at all. So at least address it. At least say that it's not okay. And, I don't know if you followed, but there's a group of cyclists from Serbia, mostly Novi Sad. Yeah, so right now they started from Novi Sad and they're cycling to Strasbourg. And they're going to deliver a letter to European Commission and European Court of Human Rights, I believe, and European Parliament. They're going to their home address and say, look, guys, we exist. We have a problem here. Please, for the love of God, hear us out. Because they've been silent so far. So we hope that this, let's call it stunt, will make them say something. Because at least the sonic weapon thing, that has to be addressed. like that.
Mm.
You cannot ignore that. This was shot. Well, this thing happened, whatever it was, during the 15 minutes of silence for the victims. Like it is so unfathomably cruel to do this in this matter, and for everyone to just pretend like it didn't happen. It's again one of those feelings where you feel like you're losing your own mind. So yeah, I would like them to say something to address this, to maybe even pose some sanctions on the government. And maybe I'm not a politician. I don't know how it works. I don't know how, especially now in light of Trump tariffs and whatnot. Like, I know these economic things can get really messy, but I'm sure there are some mechanisms that people whose job it is to know these things can actually use to somehow punish this behavior that Vucic has been displaying.
There are protests happening in many countries around the world. There are protests in Hungary against Viktor Orban. There are protests in Turkey against Erdogan, and of course, Ukraine is fighting for its life against Russia's invasion.
Yeah. Georgia and Greece as well.
Yeah, and Georgia and Greece. Do you feel any solidarity with people who are working for freedom in other countries?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very interesting that it's happening all at the same time at this region. It's all very close together. It's probably not by pure accident. There's probably some I don't know, some mechanics that the hidden mechanics that brought this all to happen. Because it's interesting that all of these protests, they started for different reasons, right? It's not like we're all protesting about the same thing, except for Greece. Greece, they are protesting for a train accident, so it's very similar to us in that matter. But yeah, I feel a great deal of solidarity, and it's interesting, lately I've seen a lot of, like, I follow a lot of, I don't know, Serbian subreddit and a lot of like channels of where people post like their thoughts and memes and whatnot, and there's been a lot of solidarity between Serbia and Turkey. Turkish people posting on our subreddit saying, we're with you, we support you, and our people sharing posts of like, hey guys, look, this is happening in Turkey, we support our Turkish brothers. And that is very fascinating, very interesting, because for those of the listeners who don't know, like, Serbia and Turkey have a very long and bloody history. Serbia has been we are all taught through school that we have been under 500 years of rule under Ottoman Empire, and there's been, very cruel conditions, and then there's a whole history of why our two countries should hate each other. And there's just pure support, because it doesn't matter. People don't care. People don't care. I don't think people hate any other people on this planet. Like, people don't hate each other. It's the politics that turn people against one another. But when people start fighting for freedom, we just recognize each other as people. So that's been fascinating. Even like in Croatia, since our protests started, a lot of Croatian people have showed their support for what we've been doing, and that's amazing, because there's been this long ongoing hate between our nations, and just to see, support between young people, and ignoring all of these years of hate that have been inflicted upon us from people who we don't, for things that we have nothing to do with. We didn't start any wars. We didn't take part in any of the bad politics and bad history between any nations. We're just here now, and we want to live our lives. Yeah, so we just don't want to fight and argue anymore for made-up reasons. They're not made up. There's legitimate reasons to hate, not to hate, but to be resentful of some of the people from other nations for some unresolved history and things that have been unjustly done. And, there's legitimate reason to feel certain things against other people in a sense that there's been an injustice done to you or your ancestors, and you feel like heavy for that. But there's no reason to continue the hate. There's no reason to continue spreading this, to keeping this unnecessary hate towards other people. So yeah, I think it's amazing that other people are protesting, and I love that there's support between protesters in different countries, and I love that people are fighting for freedom. I think it's very important.
And my final question, what would you say to those in relatively healthy democracies like the United Kingdom, Germany, sort of the United States, who are they don't value democracy is polling less and less well, just as a concept, as an idea. What would you say to people in those countries about the value of democracy? Certainly, or at least the value of freedom.
I don't think there's anything I can really say that would get through to someone whose democracy is at stake, in danger. Because you don't really understand it until it happens. You kind of feel like, oh yeah, fine, yeah. You feel like you're gonna wake up one day and you're gonna see, oh, okay, that's not democracy. Let's just not do that, and then we will not do that, and then democracy will be solved. You feel like these things. It's very hard to, even for me, as you can tell, it's hard for me to put into words what it feels like to start losing the sense of democracy. You don't see it. It's not like, it's not. You cannot touch it. You cannot see it with your own eyes that blatantly. You can, but it's all an event that passes. It happens one day, and the next day, you gotta go to work. You gotta pick up the kids from school. You gotta cook lunch. You gotta do something, and it just becomes another thing that happened, and you move on. I mean, my advice would be, if you are in a country where your voice still matters, or I guess anyone's voice matters if there's enough of people who can get around an idea. But if there are still institutions that are working, and you see an injustice happening, it is up to all of us to do something about injustices around us, and nobody will do it if you won't do it. There's this feeling like if you see something bad happening and you're like, oh, somebody will do something about it, surely, right? Somebody will react, somebody will fix this, right? And we all keep waiting for that somebody to fix something, and then one day you wake up and realize, no, it's got to be me. And it's not, you don't have to go run for president or prime minister or whatever your country's deal is. You don't have to do that. You can start from small things like we are trying to do right now. You can start for supporting the right people on the locale. You can donate to the causes that you like. You can just share stories on Instagram or wherever from people who are doing work for those who can't, stuff like that. It really starts small, and if enough people do these things, then you create this atmosphere of, oh, okay, I want to do something. Look, all of these people are doing something. I want to do something. That's how it happened for me. I wasn't contributing. I wasn't doing anything. I was just, okay, I was going out and protesting, but I wasn't hands-on with anything. And at some point I was like, you know what? Look at all these people doing something. I want to do something. And it just happens, But a lot of us feel like I don't want to get involved. I don't want to do anything. I have my own things to worry about. But at some point, if enough people are doing something, it clicks in your head and you're like, well, everybody's doing this. I want to be part of this. I want to do this. If you have mechanisms in your country and institutions that work, it really doesn't take much to create an atmosphere in which we are all fighting for democracy and for the good, for the right side, let's call it.
Tamara, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
This has been Why We Fight. If you enjoyed the program, please consider subscribing to this show or financially supporting my work by following the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee links below. For my written work and commentary, then check out my Substack, Dictators v Democrats. If you want to join a community of those who believe that democracy is worth fighting for, then feel free to join the Dictators v Democrats Discord server, which is also linked below. And remember, democracy is non-negotiable.